see if we can get going. Good evening. This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting of March 20th, 2018. It is 6:31. Call the meeting to order and remind everyone in our packed house that the meeting is being recorded for future use. And we'll go to number 2, approve the minutes. We don't have any minutes, so we will table that until next week. I think we have enough on our plate to take care of anyway. First on our list is Council of Aging Director Breanne Walsh, and to discuss the Council on Aging budget. And Breanne, it's all yours.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone. I'm always happy to come in and see all of you. Today I am here to discuss with you the budget for fiscal 19 for the Council on Aging. The budget itself is pretty standard as far as the normal allocations that we do from year to year. The only difference this year is that I have asked for an increase in the COA outreach coordinator position, adding an additional 6 hours per week to that position for salary and wages. That'll allow us to have a more continuous cycle during the week, to be able to do follow-up visits and be able to see more people out in the community. Right now we currently have it so that the schedule is set up that we have one end of the week to one end of the week, but we don't really have any continuity in the middle of the week. And I tend to pick that up myself when I don't have an outreach coordinator in there, and having those extra hours would be a tremendous help for us to what we could do for the seniors in the community and what we'd be able to offer to them in terms of follow-up, being able to do additional SNAP benefits for people who are in need of food assistance, healthcare assistance, visits after they've come out of rehabs or hospital stays, and just a lot of things that sometimes it's hard to do with a small hour of numbers each week. So we're hopeful that you all will take that into consideration and approve our requests today.
Okay. Let me just... Now, you had a version A and version B.
There is a version A and a version B, one
Okay,
with
version
and one
A
without.
is not the one to be considered, right?
It would be version B would be the one to be
Version B is the one that
considered.
was, you're submitting.
Yes, and that was the one approved by the selectmen at their
Right, the
last
selectmen
meeting.
have approved, which is the additional hours.
Yes,
Okay,
and it's an increase of just under $6,000 per year.
okay. Yep. Too many papers. Any questions or any comments by anybody?
I think it's an excellent idea. The only thing is that if we find ourselves in a bind with the school budget, we may have to go back and relook at it.
Which I do know is out there and I can
Yeah.
appreciate, so I am cognizant of that and aware that that might end up happening, but in the interim, I'm hopeful that something will be able to be figured out in that arena and we'll be able to do that.
Right.
Breanne, do you have any idea what percent of the seniors in Raleigh, I guess people over 60, use the Council on Aging at all?
So percentage-wise, we have, we don't actually have percentage numbers, but there are roughly 1,200 seniors in Raleigh right now. That's an approximation from the 2010 census.
Okay.
And there's been a 90% increase between now and 2020, so in that 10-year period from census to census. And we probably see continuous users of anywhere from 200 to 300 people per month, depending on if it's an event or a social activity. We have people who come in for SNAP benefits, people that we go out and see in the community for outreach purposes. So it's somewhere between 200 and 300 people a month that we touch on, depending on what it is at various events and outreach opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
So that's 1,200 out of, I know the registered voters are what, 6,500, so
Yeah, so it's 1,200 that, out of that 6,500 for registered voters in the town. It's an approximation, the numbers
Right.
that we have, again, based on the census, which has changed in the last 10 years.
Right.
But those are our most recent numbers, and what we go by town to town, and on the state level, that's what they tend to use on
So
your.
the town is not only old, but so,
And that's happening across the state and across the country. We are seeing a 90% increase here in the 2010 to 2020 time period, and many other towns within the Commonwealth. There's 351 towns and cities, as you know, and almost all of them are seeing the same increases. Some of them are seeing more, especially in large municipalities.
So if you have about 2,000 seniors now, or about 2,000, you're getting 200 to 300 a month, you're looking at about 10 to 15% of the senior population is using the services of the council.
Yep, and we're trying more and more all the time as we have people that are aging into that 60-plus bracket, and we also serve those with disabilities that are underneath 60. So we're really trying to garner that baby boomer generation that may not be aware of the services that we offer, or only become familiar with us when something happens. They break a hip or have some kind of event that precipitates the need for our services. So we're really utilizing that outreach position as well and requesting that increase in hours in order to let those people know in the community about our services. And not just for themselves, but if they're taking care of a spouse, they're taking care of a parent, or, a set of parents, or aunts or uncles or other extended family members. A lot of times it's not just people who are over 60 that are utilizing the center, it's younger people who are utilizing the center for their family members.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to note, so there's a broad spectrum of services that they offer. So somebody that's
Oh, yes,
68 years old is saying, yeah, I'm gonna, partake of the activities, the Christmas party, the trips, a lot of trips they plan, day trips, away trips. Then somebody with the outreach worker, they're dealing with the children of somebody that may be out of town, they're shut in. So there's like a huge spectrum of services that I don't think that most people realize. It's just not a place to go have coffee and sit and chat and play bingo. I mean, there's some serious like financial and health insurance paperwork that the outreach worker is doing, highly confidential.
Yeah, and things that-
They're screened, just with Corys and Sories.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a huge spectrum that's all under Bren's administration in that department, and we do have an activities program and different things.
We try to make sure that we're offering, a well-rounded program for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and giving them what they need depending on what their needs are. And my needs versus your needs and someone else's needs may change on a daily basis, and I may have someone who's active and healthy today, and in 2 days something happens and they're no longer that active and healthy purpose, and our role in their life changes
Yeah.
significantly. And the outreach coordinator position comes into play, especially, during times like that, and there's a huge amount of follow-up, and, having them there that much more during a week, essentially 6 hours increase a week, allows me to have my outreach coordinator in the office another day. So imagine, what we would be able to do, the people we could follow up with, the
Yeah.
people that we could check in on, the people who may be alone or might not have family in town or even in this state, things that we can follow up with and have the ability to give them that much more support. And if we can't support them, then outreaching them to people that can help them at the elder services level.
Okay.
and it not only goes from like a fun destination, but also the medical, tax advice, a lot of the other ancillary services that people can look at and get a good opinion that's not family related or things like that, that is neutral.
And that's what we try to do for
And-
people, is give them
yes.
an impartial, guidance system and support system for them that maybe they're not getting elsewhere. And making sure that they have access to services. And that's the biggest thing, is that we tend to be an access point for a lot of people. They've never had to deal with these things, or it's done in a set manner. And so we have to bridge the gap for them in many of these cases. suddenly you're, a couple and all of a sudden one of you is a caregiver and one of you is a patient. It's a lot of things that people don't expect to encounter, and that can be at 60 or at 85. It happens all the time. So having that additional outreach time can make the difference for people being able to stay home and get assistance and get the support they need, or having to go into a nursing facility full-time. Sometimes it can make that kind of a difference for people.
Right.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion to approve the
Version
version B.
Version B of the Council on Aging budget.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Recommend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. As always, I appreciate your support and your help. Thank you.
We appreciate what you're doing
Of
for
course.
us.
Thank you. I'm happy to do it.
Okay, next we're close enough to the Highway Department. Come on in, Pat. They say you'd be better received if you were Pat Sunshine.
I'm right there with you. I'm thinking about changing it now.
Okay, next is the Highway Department, Pat Snow. All yours, Pat.
Just one moment, please.
Sure.
Sign in, please.
All right.
Yes.
So. All right. In regards to the expense line for the highway department, that's been level funded, remaining at 114,926. The wages were increased per the union contract and the guidelines from the Board of Selectmen with the 2 1/4 COLA and step. I didn't get to bring it up with the selectmen, which I will take the moment now with you folks, if you wouldn't mind, just to kind of get it on everybody's radar that I really will be looking for another full-time person in the very near future, and I understand it's a very tough time right now with the Triton budget and everything like that, but I just would like to throw the number out there for us, to, even if we created a new position as a heavy equipment operator. For my budget, we're talking about a $45,000 increase for the first year in my budget. If, we kind of find things going along and there is some money available, I would really appreciate any consideration to another full-time person for the highway. Even if it were a laborer, which would lessen that amount as well. So I'd just like to get that on everybody's radar.
I support that, because I mean, we're very thin in all our departments, and I know Pat's, job has increased a little bit. I mean, now with the Chapter 90 programs going on.
Yes.
You can use almost anybody that you could.
Yeah,
add
we'll
to
be
the
having a
department.
full plate of construction this year, which, when you start balancing the mowing, another full-time person, where we do have a part-time person come summer with the cemetery position. That person will be over there a lot more during the spring, summer, fall time year for the cemetery. So I kind of lose that person where I do take advantage of him during the winter time because he has a little bit more to do for me than he does with the cemetery. So any help I can get would be appreciated.
I did notice one thing, and it might be just an error somewhere.
Yep.
Or maybe you can answer why it's
Okay.
different. On that part-time person, that operator.
The
You
on-call?
haven't, no, the one that works part-time at the cemetery.
Yes.
Under your department, he gets $24.15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
If you look under the cemetery, he gets $23.86. Is that an
I
error?
didn't,
I sent out, I corrected the cemetery budget, and I thought I emailed that out to you.
Uh,
'Cause I checked it.
Oh,
I
so you
double-
saw that?
I
Yeah.
double checked everything, and that's when
I didn't know whether, which hourly rate, because I'm sure the person.
24.15 as far as I can
Yeah.
understand
Okay.
it is.
So the
correct
cemetery would
rate.
have to be adjusted
Yes.
accordingly, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been correct.
And that position would get longevity as well?
Yes, because he's worked for the town for more than 5 years uninterrupted, I believe, is how it works,
That's
correct?
right.
Because he
Yeah.
moved up, so he
Yeah.
gets longevity,
He's
even though
been
it's a
in the
new
bargaining
position.
unit, and this is a bargaining unit, so we look at it, original start date in the ASME union.
Yes,
He's
yeah.
never left that union.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the highway department's budget.
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
The next one I have, just so we're on the same page, is for the snow and ice removal.
Yeah, tree or snow and ice, whatever.
I have
you
snow
wanna
and
do.
ice next, just so, I
that's
just want to
fine.
make sure everybody's on the same sheet, that's all. We increased that 20,000 per the selectmen's request. They would like to get it, so that's going from 165,000 to 185,000, where I believe next year we're gonna cap it at 200,000. Is what I
Okay.
understand from my request from the selectmen.
Yeah, because you can never go backwards.
Right, we
Once you-
can't go backwards,
yeah,
we're
once
only
you
going
set
up.
it at
Yeah.
200, then, you know, every year you're gonna fund the 200.
If-
But it looks like the average here is
And
well
we've
above that.
Come a long way from when Jack Demento insisted on 40.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And it's, I mean, this year we've been fortunate with, as crazy as it sounds, getting 4 nor'easters right now in the time period that we've had. The storms have come in very quickly, so it's kind of saved us some money in regards to contractors' hours and even man hours. The salt usage has gone down from that as well.
Now, were any of those FEMA reimbursed? Because I always said, you know, when I used to be director, I used to always hope for the big storms.
Yeah.
Because you knew you were gonna get reimbursed for it. These little storms, I mean, even though the northeasters weren't little storms.
Right.
There weren't a lot of heavy snowstorms that you could get a qualification under FEMA.
Yeah, so we haven't heard any official word yet from MEMA. I mean, I record all of I keep a record of what I spend per storm anyway when it comes to my man hours, contractors, sand salt use, just so I have all that information ready to go once they do request any
Yeah.
reimbursement type information.
Well, hopefully after 4 nor'easters.
Yeah,
they'll
hopefully,
find
yeah.
Because usually FEMA's guideline is, it has to be worse than.
It does,
It
yeah.
had been before, and it
Right.
was usually snow amounts, or in this case, probably 4 nor'easters would qualify the town to get some reimbursement, at least for the trees.
We're
and nothing
hopeful,
else,
yeah.
you know.
Trees.
So. All right, I make a motion that we accept the snow and ice.
okay, have a
I'll second
motion. Any other discussion on snow and ice removal budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I wish you didn't have to work again on it.
Me too.
Okay,
The next one I have is for the tree department.
okay,
The warden salary, I increased per the guidelines of 2.25. And I increased the tree budget, the expenses, quite substantially from $9,044 to $20,000. We've been really kind of playing it, you know, very low with this budget for over so many years, and now I feel like it's kind of coming back to haunt us a little bit with the amount of tree damage that we've had through these storms, and it's gonna be very costly for us to start cleaning up and trying to get rid of some of these trees, not just from these storms, but also with the gypsy moth problem that we had. I know Selectman Peterson has set up an article for even more money on top of this, but I feel like this is a good jumping off point for the tree department to start
Yeah.
doing a little bit more.
You can never have enough money in tree budget because, you know, this year, as we know, it's real bad and there's a lot of trees on the ground, but if you drive down
Oh, yeah.
any of the streets, there's still a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
them hanging.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those need to be cleaned up,
Yep.
otherwise, you know, they call them widow makers
Yep.
because when they come down, they can cause a problem.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, if the federal government doesn't give us any money, or the state, which they probably won't, they'll never give you enough
No.
anyway. There's gotta be a plan at some point on how we're gonna deal with that. And I would think that even the extra money that's being proposed is not gonna be enough. So we're gonna have to probably be selective,
Yes,
you know, in some cases,
yes.
so.
I agree. I mean, we're very fortunate to have the light department we have in this town. They help us out with so many different trees that, you know,
Yeah.
where it would cost us even more to have a tree company come in and take down, we can do it with them, and it does save us some money, but we can't keep relying on them for everything. I mean, they have work to do as well during the week.
yeah, I mean, they're gonna have, you know, with tree limbs down.
Yes, yeah.
They're gonna have lines down.
The only other thing is you're probably gonna have to think of how you're gonna move forward with this, because I'm sure a lot of the town trees that were actually town trees that came down, you know, how you're gonna tell people
Right.
that they're gonna be, when they're gonna be cleaned up, you
Right.
know, so. It's gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of people.
Oh, yes, yeah, the phone has already started ringing.
Oh, yeah, very, very impatient.
I mean,
Just out of curiosity, when you're snow plowing and you see down limbs and stuff like that.
push them over.
Yeah, we push them out of the way. I mean, it's,
Okay, so
I,
the
during these,
contractor
I'm,
just,
the contractors don't typically do it,
okay.
but during these storms, I'm usually the one riding around whatever machine we have available and pushing
Okay.
them out of the way, working with the light department, because we
Gotta
do-
clear the roads.
We gotta clear the
Right.
roads,
Yeah, right.
regardless. I know my guys will clear it, but you have to be careful of what you're doing.
It was so
as well.
funny, one of the storms, the one with the snow, yeah, the big storm with the snow. The plow was like 4:30 in the morning. It came down the street, it backed up. It went forward, it backed up. I thought, what in the world is he doing?
Yeah.
I get up to go to work, I said, aha.
Yes.
He couldn't get down the
Exactly.
street.
And now a lot of it's all in the snow.
That's what I
bankings
mean,
and
yeah.
frozen,
Right.
so you
Yeah.
gotta just sit and wait.
It's- Yes,
you know,
exactly.
so.
Yeah.
Dave, you had a,
Yeah, Dave Peterson. Yeah, one of the things we're doing, I've had many discussions with Pat, and we're gonna have an article for $50,000 because of the excessive amount of dead trees due to the drought and the gypsy moss. And of course, the storms have even added to it, so Pat put extra money in his, and I think from here on in, we're gonna be looking we'll get an idea of what we spend this year and how much more we gotta do. And the other thing is, I've spoken with Dan Folding, and I believe the light department and their budget's gonna put in some extra money in order to cut trees that overhang the wires. And one of the big expenses when we do all this is police details, because you get out on 133 and some of these back roads, we're gonna have to hire police officers, so a coordinated program between the two departments to basically pool the money and the manpower and do the work at the same time, so that we're piggybacking on each other. And come the end of the summer, we'll have a pretty good idea of how many trees are left and so on and so forth, so we can make a pretty good estimate for next year's budget, if we need to add some more extra money, or if Pat keeps the 20,000 in, if that'll be enough. But we've definitely, over the years, have neglected trees. And Pat runs around and does a tree here or a tree there, but if anybody's had trees cut out of their yard, to hire a tree company is extremely expensive. And we add police detail in it even more, so I don't expect the 50,000 is gonna take care of everything, but we have to do something, because my biggest fear is that someone's driving down 133 or Dodge Road or Leslie Road, and limb comes down, goes through the windshield, and we got some real problems. So the money is gonna be well spent. To me, it's a public
Right.
safety issue that we have to deal with, so.
We've seen that on the news.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think 2 people
Oh,
this
yeah.
year have died by trees.
Yeah.
just coming down
Dave,
on it.
would that be in the special town meeting? Or
Yeah,
I
we
don't-
put it on the special.
I think we put it in the special, yeah.
Then
We'd
they
like to
can
get
use-
started on
Then they
it.
can use it quicker.
We'd like to get started on it as soon as
Yeah.
possible. Actually, we
Yeah.
kinda lucked out this winter that no car, I don't believe any cars have gotten hit or whatever, but those oak trees that are overhanging, you see them down by the police station in particular, on 133 up by the Herrick Farm Stand, there's a bunch. Go down Dodge, Daniels, Leslie, Newbury Road, there's tons of dead oak trees, and they're hanging on, so keep our fingers crossed so we can get to them before they actually start coming down in large chunks, so that's the goal.
Make
Pat,
a
is much-
motion.
Oh, I was just gonna ask Pat a question.
Oh, go
Is there
ahead.
much of your budget, Pat, that goes into planting of new trees, or is it almost all?
It's almost all removal. I mean,
Removal
it just
and-
hasn't been, we just haven't had the money there to honestly get into investing into the trees to plant, unfortunately.
Okay.
As much as I'd like to be perfectly honest with you, but, once we kind of get this under control, I feel like it would be a good idea for us to maybe start looking into a program like that. But with that, also looking into a program where these trees don't become a burden to us
Yeah,
later on down the road as well.
okay.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve the tree warden's budget.
A second.
okay, have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
And we got
tree department now to town.
Town land maintenance, the last but not least, is, this basically is what we use to maintain the cap dump on Red Gate Road. The numbers have gone down over the years because we've taken on more of the work ourselves. We bought the highway department has the mowers, and we've been doing the town common, the town hall, the annex, some of the commons like that around town. And I know with the drought we had the last few years, it also saved us a little bit on the mowing in regards to the dump. I kind of like to keep this number where it's at, because any problems we also have with the Dodge reservation, we can put this towards as well. It's kind of, you know, just in case of any issue with areas like that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the town and maintenance budget.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Very much, Pat.
Have a good, enjoy the storm.
Snow tomorrow.
Yes, I
Yeah.
hope not.
Pat, how many full-time employees
We,
you got?
we hope we
As
don't
of right
see
now, we have, including myself, 4. Larry would be 5, but that's what we got.
You're like 4.5.
Yeah, 4.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the fire department.
Okay, before you start with the fire department, I will recuse myself from any discussion or vote on this.
Okay.
You stay here or?
I'm gonna stay here, but just.
Okay, chief.
Good evening. I'm looking, other than the wages, we'll get into that in a few minutes, I guess, expenses. I'm looking for an increase of approximately, hold on.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's 2 versions in your packet. There should be an A and a B, and the selectmen voted on the B
Right.
version.
Is it all stapled together or?
I copied it all in one big packet. So you have to find the B towards the back.
I think the A version is the first one, right?
Yeah, I don't see anything that says B,
Right.
but I see it looks like a different form here, so.
B doesn't have the 2 additional firefighters.
On the expenses on the fire department, I'm looking for an additional $2,310. And the reason for that is the last 3 months of the fiscal year, we should be in the new station. And we just don't know what the costs are going to be
Right.
for running the 2 buildings. And what I did was I took the Byfield's fire station and used their energy costs for the 3 months as a basis with the new one. And the reason for that is they have a radiant heat in the floor, which is what we're getting in the apparatus bay. And it's a newer building, and it would give me a good idea of what the potential costs are going to be. If things go right, we're probably going to be moving in towards the end of March, so we're really looking at April, May, and June to cover for this fiscal year. And then, of course, next year I'll be going in for more money, but I don't really know how much energy I'm going to be expending
Right.
right now, because I just don't know what the costs are going to be. But I do know that we're most likely going to need some extra money in the expenses for energy costs, because we'll be running 2 buildings. And I don't know where the costs are going to be, and if we have a bad winter next year, we'll be using a lot of energy in the current stations. I've moved some things around. Other than that, it's a level-funded budget. I had some increases in certain things, but decreases in others, so money was moved around from dues and publications to hose testing, because I've had more stuff tested than I had in years past with the nozzles tested, so everything is third-party tested to make sure that they're working function properly. So that increased a little bit this year. But basically, the money's all there, same as last year. I'm just asking for the extra money for the utility costs. And then hopefully, we'll have some numbers to go with so that fiscal year 20, I'll have a better idea what our actual costs are going to be. But we're probably going to need a full year to really
Right.
find out how much I'm going to be using and how much a reduction we have at Hammond Street. We had some ideas of what we can do down there to kind of cut down on heating bill. That would be to isolate the second floor when we're out of there, drain the pipes so we won't have to heat upstairs. It would just be the one floor. And there will be some reduction in electrical use, but I really don't know what it is at this point. I have no
Right.
clue.
Now, the new facilities, the fire and police utilities separate? Or?
Yes, they're two separate buildings.
Okay.
So they'll have their energy
All
costs
right.
and I'll have mine.
So you don't share a common dispatcher or anything?
We'll share a common, which we do now. We don't have a dispatch, other than if we have a call, there's somebody in the radio room down here now. But most of the time, everything's out of the police station. We won't have two separate people. So,
Okay.
and it's only one little room, and we'll have radios in there, but I mean, it's going to be the same costs that I'm having now.
Okay.
I had a question just on just math. The original budget, because I didn't have this one till tonight, it looks like $1,000 error in the salaries. If you look on your page, I think it's page 3, or we have all the personnel there. If you look at Captain Edwin,
Yes.
total salary 66,492.80, then Captain Mary is 65,492. There's same rates of pay, so this, and when you add it up on the front, it didn't add up either. It was just short 1,000. But then I see on the B budget here, it looks like you may have corrected that. I'm not sure. The original budget that for the
The one
fire
I've got has
department-
got them both at the same amount.
Okay, well, yeah, on the B budget.
And
But if you look at the budget we have here, the A budget, I guess is what you want to call it, on the page where it had the wages, you see that there's $1,000 difference between those two people. And it's just a math error, I think. I think you meant to bring them up at 66.
yeah, they're both exactly the same.
All right, so just as long as the budget in the front adds up to that, now, that $1,000, because it's just a math thing I picked up.
All right.
And it looks like on the B budget, which we just got tonight, it looks like you changed that to the 66,492.80 for both of them. So I'm assuming that the firefighter wages that you have listed here is correct now.
Yes.
Okay, so just want to bring it up, that, so we don't change the budget by 1,000,
Yeah, no, they're both the same. It just, maybe the formula didn't transfer over. It's-
Yeah, that's strange, because usually they're done by...
They're usually the same,
Yeah.
so. But they're both the same. They're both 66,492.80. And all the wages are according to the wage schedule.
So the selectmen have approved the A budget, correct?
Yeah.
We approved the one
B
that had the
budget.
two extra money, the two extra personnel. So I think it's the B budget.
You should say it at the top, you should have that,
There's
say,
nothing,
these were scanned and emailed to you.
yeah, nothing has that, but I think the top budget we're looking at is the B budget, because it's
Oh,
got
the top one is.
The top one.
Right.
I was
I
looking-
thought they said the B was in the back.
No. The top one is the B.
Okay.
The one underneath is the A.
Okay, because in mine, it's
Okay.
the second part of it.
Yeah, that,
Okay, so the
yeah.
top
The difference in the
Top
wage
one's
line.
B.
Right.
Okay, yours is B, because
I just want to
Mine
make
is-
sure that,
Because the numbers are larger, you can see
Yeah.
on
Right.
on the top one.
but I want to make sure that that's the B budget and not the A budget.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers are
You can see the
672
difference in the
versus
wage line.
Yeah, I see that.
528.
Right.
That's-
the
But
B
mine
one
isn't
is
marked
stuff with the
A
higher
or B.
wage is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I have
672,902,
listed here in the budget book,
okay.
but when it went to the package, like, that header is missing, so I didn't realize
Okay.
that.
I thought it was. the
So is
B
it
one
the
was in the back.
672,902 bottom line number?
672,902,
902.
Yeah,
was-
that's all we're looking at, it's the B budget.
That's the B budget.
and then that will have the backup for the two full-time firefighters.
Yeah, which is, it looks correct on that sheet, but the A sheet it wasn't.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the 672,902 budget?
I'll make a motion.
I have just one other question.
No, hold on just a minute. We'll get to you.
Oh, I said I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Recommend accepting the budget.
Do I have a second? Pregnant pause here.
Oh,
Somebody?
yeah, I'll second, I
Okay.
forgot this.
All right, further discussion, Dennis?
Yeah, no, I just had a quick question on the overtime. I know you're compensating now for the 2 additional firefighters. Is that roughly $40,000 for the 2 additional firefighters?
That's what we're figuring on based on the hourly rate and based on what they would be doing for training with the other 2. Again, it's kind of a stab in the dark right now.
I mean, you had 53 originally for the A budget, and that was for how many people?
2.
2 people?
And
So that'd be
but-
roughly...
Yeah, but they
20.
make a lot less money than the 2 full-time
Okay.
captains do now, so it would be a little bit less than.
Now, with the 2 additional firefighters, would that reduce the overtime elsewhere?
No,
Or just-
probably not.
Okay. I didn't know
Because
whether... because you have-
what's happening is we're having an increase of demand on services and stuff like that, and they still have to do training, like the other 2 do.
Yeah.
And what the goal is to be able to have 2 people responding to calls, which now we kind of have 1 person, which is one of the full-time guys. We have periods of time when there's no one available in town. And with the 2 extra firefighters, the goal is to have some more people available for the after-hour calls, but also during the day, and have an ability to get these guys up to speed, and basically replace us when we retire, which is coming sooner than later. Right now, I have nobody that really can take over, that hit the ground running, and the idea is to get these guys hired and get them trained up to how the department is going, the stuff that the call force doesn't really deal with, like inspections and what have you.
So you want to put these people on in July versus waiting till March when the fire station opens up, is what you're saying?
As soon as, well,
Yeah.
as soon as we practically can, because we have to advertise a job. It would be probably in the fall before someone's hired. But
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering why the wages, what you put in full year wages if you know that you
We-
only need a portion, you know?
Well, I don't know, the thing is, I don't know what the wages are gonna be, the overtime. If I had a crystal ball, I would know if,
Well, I'm not talking about the overtime, I'm
Mr.
talking about the
Chairman?
regular wages, you
Um,
know, so.
we based it on a year. If there's money left over, there's money left over, but I don't know when we're going to hire anybody. That's.
Well, that's what I was,
Right.
that's what I was, I mean, I support the budget, but I was just wondering why, you get a full year's salary, and then you get the overtime for a full year too, where you won't have these people probably, like you said, for, till the fall, so there's a lot of
Yeah,
excess in there, I would think.
But
that-
there was a kind of a crammed-in timeframe with developing all this, and
Yeah.
on top of doing this and dealing with the last 3 storms, there just wasn't any time to really sit down and break everything down. So that's one of the reasons why we did the full year. It was easier. I'm not a math whiz, but I also had a lot of stuff on my plate in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean,
Well,
if
we
the,
can
if
post
the,
the job.
Hold on a minute,
Mr.
Dave?
Chairman?
if the Triton budget does affect these departments, then that would probably be something that we would look at, I'm guessing, because there's some surplus there, and that would be the first part I would probably look at, to keep everybody there.
Yeah.
You can hire the people, but maybe trim it down a little closer,
Yeah, no, it's, like I said, what we
Yeah,
developed in
yeah.
all this, it was a very quick time frame, and I had a lot of stuff going on, and
Well,
Right.
actually, if I may say, I did the payroll calculation sheets, because that's generated out of personnel, and I was under the assumption we were advertising it effective for a July 1 appointment. That's why it's 52
yeah,
weeks.
okay, well,
I was not
it's-
told that there would be
Mr. Chairman,
a staggered approach.
if I could poke in here, that don't mix the 2 issues. The 2 extra firefighters have nothing to do with the new station. The chief has been coming into us for the last 3 years with issues of not having enough firefighters. There are oftentimes he responds on weekends and nights and holidays with 1 full-time guy and maybe 1 call guy, which is totally insufficient. So we've decided that the school, every year, we don't add the 2 additional firefighters because of the school budget. And I did make a statement at one of the school committee meetings that we really need to hire 2 extra firefighters to give us not sufficient coverage, but better coverage than we're getting now. So they're 2 separate issues. And the intent is, as the town administrator just said, is if that gets approved at town meeting, we'll start advertising so that as soon as we can after July 1st, because we need them for the summer. I mean, that's how tight things are. The summer's the worst time for him in terms of having coverage for calls after hours and weekends. So we've been playing with no pun intended, fire for a long time. And we just decided this was the time, we've got to bite the bullet, and the school budget's not going to get any better next year than it is this year, so we need these positions. The chief's needs help, and on top of that, with the age of the chief and the two captains, they're getting up there in age. There's a mandatory age 65 retirement, so that we need to be planning and getting people in position now to cover those, as well as just to cover the daily work that they do and the coverage for the town. So it's just,
No, I agree with that. My only question is whether these people are going to be hired starting in July.
hopefully
1st.
July 1st, or
You know.
as close to that as we can,
Yeah.
is the goal.
So may I ask a question, in terms of
Sure.
how many, calls would you say you average of, how many calls did you get this past year from?
This past year was 781 calls.
So-
The year before that was 736. And we've been going up every year. The first year when I started, we did 236 calls.
Why is it such a,
More people calling for services. We're getting more calls. I mean, I don't make them up. People call 911 for the fire department, we go. And we're getting more and more of those calls.
some of those calls, could they be taken by the police department too? Like the-
Why would you want to do that?
No, I don't know, I'm just.
I'm asking you, why
No.
would you want that? When they're
No.
trained to be police officers, we're trained to be firefighters.
Yeah.
We don't go to their calls, they shouldn't be going to our calls. And when you start doing that, that's a dangerous slope that you go down, and you're going to have somebody get hurt, because they're not trained to do what we do, and we are not trained to do what they do. That's why.
I'm just asking, I don't know, So there's, how many?
Well, also, you don't want to have a policeman out there in a cruiser when you need a fireman with a fire truck. A cruiser can't put out a fire.
Well, they have
Well-
job descriptions, and they need to follow, and they're also in collective bargaining
Yeah.
units, separate
Right,
units.
but
and
it's,
They're not, the
But I would say-
firefighters aren't trained in the
I know,
police.
but I would say most of the calls for fire are probably not really directly fire related, they're rather.
But you don't know.
You don't know that.
Right, no, that's why I was just trying to get a
Well,
feel.
let me put it this
from,
way. If I had a crystal ball and I knew everything, one, I wouldn't be working here. I'd be a rich man and everybody coming to me with the answers, all right? When the call's given, with the stuff that is given to the call taker, that's what determines what gets called. We don't know what it is until we're there. Now, if you had a police officer go to, well, you want to check something out before I call the fire department, and it's a burning building and someone dies, that puts the responsibility on the town. You don't want to do that to save $10, which in the grand scheme of things, that's what's going to be.
And Mr.
It
Chairman,
doesn't work anywhere else, it won't work
Yeah.
here.
Right.
We have dispatchers that are trained in emergency medical dispatch and a number of things, so they have a protocol that they follow when a call comes in, and the chief can back me up, I'm sure, there's a discernment level of what that call is about. If
Right,
it's-
and then they send the appropriate
If it's
people.
garbled or confusing, they
They
have.
send everybody.
A
If-
technique to extract what the issue is, and they're trained and through a rigorous program, and so that's how those calls are sent
No,
out, so
I mean,
there
it's-
are those protocols.
I've personally had the system tested 3 or 4 times, and when you want a policeman or a fireman, that's what you expect, and they've shown up accordingly. And I would be very remiss if I called the police and a fire truck pulled up. Now, maybe they're the first ones there, okay, because of whatever. And thank God sometimes it's happened that way, but you don't want to go into brain surgery with a dog doctor.
Chief, just out of curiosity, besides obviously calls for fires and homeless stuff, what are some of the other situations, like do they give you calls for flooded basements?
We'll
Have a
get
pump out
those,
and-
we'll get public assist for flooded basements, leaking ceilings where the pipes have burst, medical calls, mutual aid calls, car accidents. We have a lot of car accidents, and again, you don't know what you get until you get there.
Right, right.
And there's times where we're calling for help because we don't have enough people.
Okay.
Sometimes there's only 1 or 2 police officers working, and maybe only one. They have 2 calls going on. they can't do everything. They do not have the staff to do that. I'm not going to speak for Chief Dumas, but I don't think he would be happy with that arrangement either. But we do get a lot of calls for a lot of different things, and most of the time, you don't know what you have until you get there. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. You can tell by the excitement in the dispatcher's voice that there's something going bad. But most of the time, you have no idea what's really in store for you till you get there. Because a lot of times, you think it's not going to be anything, and it ends up being something really bad. And that's happening more now than it has ever.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, ready for a vote? All those in favor of the fire department's budget of $672,902 signify by saying aye.
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 Abstained.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
One more, emergency
That's right.
management. On emergency management, I'm asking for an additional $431 for the expenses. That would bring it from $2,099 to $2,530. And the reason for that is twofold. One is that we had to get a faster router than the one we had because it was taking so long to upload information. So we needed to get a faster one, but also since Outlook was updated on my computer, the way they used to store emails is different. So now I'm paying for the cloud, as it were, for storage of emails.
Right.
So that increased my monthly bill for internet from $95 to $137, and I think 50 cents. So it would need another $431 for the year to make the expenses on emergency management kind of level out. So I'm not paying, I'm not in a deficit. It'll be zero at the end.
Right.
So that's why we're asking for the additional $431.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, just one question. Do you anticipate any shortfall at the end of this fiscal year?
No.
That's good.
If I do, I know how to.
I mean,
I don't
last year we
think
had
we'll.
some maintenance, I think, or something that was an issue on the equipment, but.
Uh,
No, that's on the
call
fire.
wages.
On the
Right.
fire,
Yeah, on the
I
fire,
don't
yeah.
anticipate anything because I was given some extra money for expenses this year. I'm in a good spot where everything is getting fixed and I'm not crimping to make sure I can make it limp through to June. I think I'm in a good spot right now.
As of end of February, you're below budget on all your wages and expenses and everything else. So if everything holds
I should
level,
be all right.
then
yeah.
you're going to be all right.
I should be okay this year. I don't have any major repairs that I had in the last 2 years. So I'm knocking on wood that I won't have any problems.
Good to hear.
Okay. They have a motion to accept the emergency management budget.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
A second.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You're in on this one, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sure. Thank you again, Chief.
Okay. So I gotta sign this.
All right. Moving right along. Parks and Recreation.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Funded and revised.
And as of the end of February, you're below budget in all your wages and expenses and everything. Okay. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Tim Salvo, Raleigh Park and Rec. We're looking to have an increase of $10,000 for 19 for the field maintenance expenses. Just so you, a little background for you folks, the Park and Rec generally spends in the average of about $40,000 a year to maintain the fields. Currently, we receive a little over $24,000. The rest we have to raise with user fees, with renting of the fields. We're running into some expenses. The well pump at Ellis Field has not working, and it's going to be $6,000 to have that replaced. We also have an issue with the electrical panel up there, that some mice had gotten into it, and that needs to be updated and replaced. And in doing so, we have to do some updating in the concession stand itself through the wiring inspector. We have to kind of bring it up to date. And then lastly, with the new fields that are coming online, hopefully next spring at the Gwynn property, that's going to be an increase in the maintenance that we're
Yeah,
going to need
let
to
me
take
just
place.
interrupt you just for a minute. We're on the revised budget,
Okay.
okay? As everybody knows, okay, that it's different from what we had before. Okay, sorry.
So with the new fields that hopefully will be going online at the Gwynn property that we recently purchased, there'll be an increase in the maintenance that we'll need to maintain those fields as well. So those were the reasons for the addition to the budget.
Would the pump be a capital item, or would it be maintenance?
Typically, it would be capital, but I think he's got some ongoing maintenance-related issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're currently working on it. So, I'm not, we're kind of trying to guesstimate as best we can with what the exact expenses are going to be with the new Gwynn property, and what those are gonna be. And we're concerned as far as what our user fees are gonna be coming in, where we're having a lot of disruption with the fields going on right now. Our income, as far as what the user fees are gonna be, may be less until we actually get everything up and going.
We lost a field at Pine Grove School.
Right,
The
the Pine-
softball,
Yeah.
because that's where the septic is going, and the project now is starting April 13th, that Friday, starting school vacation week, so there's no spring softball or anything. So they're facing, I think, some recalibrating of the user fee system.
Right, so-
And then not showing about the other.
We're a little, we're not really sure, how the projects are gonna go. They're doing the work over at Ellis Field. There's a retention pond that they're putting in over there, so, which is kind of in the middle of the field, so to speak, so we're not exactly sure, we're hoping that people can continue to be able to utilize the fields on a regular basis, but there's no guarantee yet. Of course, the weather's not helping either. They're trying to get the work done over there so people can get on the fields. Normally, by April 15th, they start using them, and that's, basically how we're doing our user fees, by a specific date so they can get on there. If they're not allowed, they can't get on there, or there's gonna be less fields for them to actually utilize, or the fields aren't, maintained well enough, then people aren't gonna want to rent them, because the majority of the money that we make in the user fees is from outside entities. We try to keep the user fee cost to in-town sports organizations at a minimum, because obviously they're from town and people are already paying taxes in town. So one of the reasons that you can acquire from out of town is if you have a nice facility.
Where is the wind property located?
The Gwynn is next door to the Pine Grove School, the property that we just
Oh,
bought, next
oh.
to the Veterans Field.
So you said it's gonna cost 10,000, but there's gonna be some reduction that you're not gonna, because you're gonna lose part of the field. Oh, on Pine Grove, would that be Parks and Recreation? Or
This
the
part of the
school
field
be
is Park and Rec, where like the girls softball plays.
Yeah.
But we're still utilizing the soccer field that's there. So, there's gonna be I'm gonna have to meet with the lawn maintenance to find out exactly,
Yeah.
We're gonna have to rescope that a little bit to see exactly what the cost is gonna be. But for the most part, that's kind of a smaller section compared to what's still being utilized.
Then there's that front field on 133
Haley.
that's, I don't know what's the name of it is. It's before you get to Aris on the
Behind the
corner
bank.
there. That's not having the field there anymore, right?
We're still utilizing that
It's
now
still-
until we get the new fields
Yeah.
up and going.
What are they gonna do with that land anyway? Is it?
I'm sure that'll get, I would imagine it's gonna get turned over to the town.
Just
Yeah.
stays vacant, it's water
Yeah,
department
water,
property
yeah.
that we can't use for anything because of the well right there.
Hmm.
Okay, anything else? Need a motion to
I'll make
accept
a
the?
motion that we approve the revised budget.
Okay,
Second.
second Dennis. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Yeah. Next. Town planner.
Leave it open. That's good.
All right. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Chris Thornton. I'm the chairman of the planning board here in Rowley. We're here tonight to ask that the Finance Committee consider a request by our board for about an additional $19,000 in expenditures in fiscal year 2019. The purpose of the expenditure and the request would be to be able to pay our town planner an additional 13 hours a week on average. The reason for the request has a basis in the fact that we have quite a bit of demand for that office. Our office lately has been pretty busy and increasingly so. We've always been running a little bit lean as it is. It's for a long time we had no planner, and it's only been in the last 6 or 8 years that we've had a planner, and where we were able to get the funds initially for 22 hours a week. We're finding that that office in that position certainly could is a bigger job than even just that. So for that reason, we're asking that the board consider allotting or the increase, and we intend to allot it so that we can spend an extra 8 hours a week addressing some of the administrative and customer service aspects of the position, and that we have some additional time each week as well to address some of the long-term planning needs of the town, and there's some considerations that we, as we move forward, that some of the zoning laws even be amended and changed, and a lot of that initiates from our board through input from other boards. We go from planning to zoning review, and then on to the Board of Selectmen, but absent the planner taking that lead, there really is no other point person for that. So for a lot of reasons, we think that this position could use the additional time, and recognizing that there is a tight budget this year, nonetheless, we think that this is an area where money can be well spent that could result in benefits to the town.
Now, you're going from what number in 18 to what number in 19?
Well, so 19, if you were to keep at its current wage scale, wage level, and a number of hours, when you consider the longevity increase and the increased rate in pay, the total is going to be $30,943.52. We're requesting an additional $19,073, bringing the total wages up for the planner position to $49,081.
Mean you're asking for 19,073.
Yeah.
$19,073.
I thought you said
yes.
13,073.
It's
If
on
I
the
had, I
revised
misspoke.
Okay.
The
back.
request was
So is there another budget in the
$19,073.
back?
Yeah, in the back. See,
Oh, okay.
that's like 2 or 3 pages.
Okay.
So
That's
what's not
fine.
getting done now with the hours being what they are?
Well, there's a lot of administrative functions that need to be attended to that are, we're at least a year behind in minutes, for instance. We have a backlog of things that we'd like to look at in terms of amending both the rules and regs of the planning board and proposals to amend the bylaw in some areas. We are doing some of this, but it's a slow process, and given the delegation of responsibility, if we're going to, when there is something in this vein, it's something that starts with us, goes to the ZRC, and we're also making sure it gets to the warrant. So in addition to just running a planning board and reviewing applications, there's a lot of other administrative functions that need to be addressed that could be dealt with a little more fully than they are.
And it really falls to not just the administrative, but there's the whole long-term planning aspect, because as of right now, let me just say, when I first started, the planning board, in 2014, we were handling, we've had 6 public hearings and a handful of A&R applications, and that's kind of expanded to now we have like 14 public hearings per year, and 7 of those is site plan reviews, another 7 is special permit review. There's also more A&Rs that are coming through, so that's the application load that we're handling, and so the time that's really that we have right now is really being allocated towards that and to the administrative stuff that goes with that, the public notices and, the coordinating between developers and applicants and answering questions for the, we give about 10 hours of public time. Of that 22 hours goes to public time, where we hold office hours so anybody can come in and ask questions, phone calls and things like that. So there's really no time set aside for the long-term planning aspect, and there are actually regional initiatives that we haven't been really able to take advantage of really since 2016, when it really started to get busy, and we started having more of the application and the public hearings on a yearly basis, and so there's been, for example, the North Shore Home Consortium, which is, they have monthly meetings that we can attend, and this organization is a way for the town to obtain funds that could be used to rehabilitate houses and to help lead to more affordable housing in town. But there's been really no time to deal with that, so there's $12,000 available per year for these kind of projects, but we need to be able to allocate time towards that. And that's just an example. There's also
Right.
the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, which requires some input of time as well, and North Shore Alliance, Economic Development Alliance as well. So that's all part of the long-term regional aspect of which has kind of been hard to get to because of the day-to-day administrative and the application-oriented type work.
Okay.
So is that planning tied into the growth? Has growth been pretty constant? Has growth been pretty constant and steady over the years?
So, well, I don't know if it would tie it to growth as much as that there's been more just activity in terms of economic development.
Certainly, we have a nice growth in some of the medical facilities here in town. That Leahy Clinic that went in on Haverhill Street was a terrific project. It went through very smoothly through our office, but it's important that we be able to handle developers efficiently. And one of the things we're thinking about doing, and we're sort of hand-tied in our ability to do it, is adding a second meeting each month so that we can process an application. Not that we're trying to expedite things for people, but nonetheless, we don't want to be the impediment to them getting something done quickly. If we could have a little more administrative time to organize how things move through this town, where it will be better able to be responsive to the needs of the business community that is in town investing. We're constantly and thankfully, working with Ipswich Bay Glass to, as they grow, and in fact, in the last 2 years, we've helped them move. I think we're building another building on their site, and adding employees to that facility. We have this new medical facility that's going in on 300.
414.
414.
Haverhill Street.
No. I'm talking about Newburyport Turnpike. Surratt.
Yeah.
300, isn't it?
Yeah, 300, sorry.
So there's a facility, they'll have 42 new, employees at a medical facility that's already been leased out. So being able to, manage those cases as they come through and do it effectively is a challenge, and I think that these additional hours will help us address those as it goes forward. One thing that was pointed out yesterday at the Board of Selectmen meeting, we don't have an Office of Community Development or Economic Development, and in fact, if somebody wants to come to town and make an investment, the first stop they're going to make is into the planning board to see what they can do in any particular area, and to seem like we're disorganized and overrun, not that that's where we're at, but it certainly we could find ways to be a little more open to work with these people and try to encourage work with people that want to do new things in town. So these are, that's not necessarily at stake here. That's what we're already doing, but we think we can do a better job at it if we can spend a little more time.
Right. Dave?
Yeah, just keep in mind too, that this office doesn't have any secretarial support, so Kirk does everything. On top of that, I got down
That's why he's a year behind in the minutes.
Well, that and the meetings run long, so at the end we're like, you know what, we can push these minutes, they're not going anywhere.
And it's more like 6 months.
Okay.
The other thing is too, I go down there a lot during the week, there's Council on Aging, and his office coordinates a great deal with the building inspector, the Board of Health, Conservation, and when he's only there a few hours a week, those other boards have to wait till he comes in.
Right.
To make that coordination, and most everybody that comes into town, there's a number of new streets being developed, a couple of new streets up by me that are being put in, subdivisions, small subdivisions, but the big one going in by the Y camp. I mean, the amount of work is just incredible, and one of the things that the Board of Selectmen's interested in.
No question.
One of the things the Board of Selectmen's really interested in is updating the bylaws and taking a look at the zones and see if we can encourage some more business to come in town. And these are the kind of things that it's the plan is purview. And right now, as he said, he has no time to do any of that, and we really need to be looking at that. One of the things I mentioned last night was that over in Georgetown, off of 95, where the old movie theater was, and on the other side, they're starting to push their commercial area. So we have the property right at the Raleigh-Georgetown line coming into town on the right there that has sat vacant for any number of years, other than a lot of cars parked in there. And it would be great if we could push that property into some kind of commercial development that benefits the tax rate and provides jobs. But these are all kinds of things that the only one that deals with any of that stuff is Kirk on the planning board. And at some point in a year or two, he's probably going to be looking for some secretarial hours. But at least the biggest bang for the buck right now is to give him more time to do what he needs to do and update some of this stuff and handle all the hearings. I mean, my wife's been going down the last couple of hearings because of the subdivisions on our street. And they run long, and Kirk talks about a hearing. Maybe he only gets 10 hearings, but some of those hearings get continued 3, 4, and 5 times. So they're meeting. A lot of time is spent on meetings, which takes away from office time and public hours. So this is really another one of those things that as a selectman, we've been putting off for years, and we just said, you know what, we can't keep giving the money to the school. We've got to increase some of these positions, because the town has grown, and is growing, and we need to get with the times, or we're going to lose out, so. we encourage you to support this, the extra hours for this position.
And I did take note that there were, like I mentioned, 14 public hearings, but that was just opening the public hearings. What he was mentioning is that we continue a lot of those hearings so that we actually, this year, had 34 public hearing sessions in
Right.
total. So it is quite a busy, ongoing process. And that doesn't actually even include when we do site visits and things like that.
And any other number of items on the agenda that aren't necessarily open meeting items.
Does the planning board get involved with that piece of property on the corner that used to be the mobile gas station that I think it's been up, no one's touching
No, we
that land
haven't,
like that, no?
and no one submitted any application on it yet at this point.
Oh, yeah, because they would probably have to clean up the site and
They probably
there'd be a
would.
lot
I
of
think
attacks.
I'm sure their first stop would be conservation.
And we do get calls about that. There have
Yeah.
been calls coming in. Nothing's come concrete to the planning board, but we've had people come in and ask questions about. So there is interest in that property.
But I
It's a
think-
very specialized property that has a lot of issues that will have to be navigated.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are they,
But,
oh,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, the property next to the Dodge Reservation, I live just a minute from there, and the lumber trucks that were coming back and forth, and the chipping, truckloads of chips, what are they planning there? Is that going to be houses, townhouses, condos?
So on Dodge Road?
On Weathersfield Street, next to the Dodge, the Girl Scout camp.
Oh, okay. So
That's,
they-
I think he was talking about Nixon's.
So we haven't, at this point, there's been something informally submitted to us, and we had it on the agenda last week, but they asked us if we can just continue it. I think it might have been
Okay, it's a little premature
crazy
then.
agenda to get, that they just said, you know what, we'll come back the next time around. But potentially, that, you know, there's
A big piece of
there's
land.
40 acres in back there anyhow,
Yeah.
42 acres, I believe, which, you know, if every acre were usable, you know, 40 lots, maybe open space residential development, something closer to, you know, between 30 and 40 lots there on, with some yield back to the town in terms of open space. But that's something we're going to have to consider in the next, and, you know, just having the ability to have Kirk, you know, review our own bylaws, review the state law, and then advise the board about these things before we get to a meeting, particularly where all of us are volunteers and otherwise, you know, hand-tied to do a lot more in terms of outside research. It coming from his office, and that's how we stay informed. So, you know, with these bigger projects coming through, it is going to be a help to have more time for him to handle the workload.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the revised budget.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Members of the board, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you for
Gentlemen.
everything.
Coming in.
Give it the good work, Kirk.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. Can we jump ahead to the Triton budget where it's not necessarily scheduled?
Oh, yeah, those are just,
Okay.
no, they're not appointments, they're just,
Right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so. We won't keep Joe up past his bedtime.
Appreciate it, Larry. Appreciate it.
Is that the last budget?
Yeah, it should be the.
Yes.
Last two.
I asked Joe to be here, because I think you know some of my positions, but I wanted Joe to talk about the selectmen's discussions that they had last night and any new developments before we vote on the Triton budget. So, Joe, if you can tell us your thoughts and where the selectmen stand.
Let me, I'll start out. We got the original figure of about $987,000 increase. Yeah, that was on the sheets passed around at the school committee meeting, and that was, according to some members of the committee, pared down to the bone, just giving them a level funded or a level services budget, and then they were and we received last week the school committee voted the final budget. They approved it on March 14th for submitted to the town of $732,000, I believe. So there was a reduction in the overall assessment. We did send the letter from the town that we gave our annual 50% of our increase in Prop 2.5 plus a new growth of approximately 200,000, and this time they were only 3.5 times over that, a little bit more than 3.5 times over what we have offered. I did note that there was a story in today's paper about the Salisbury Group, that we are Triton, and they are planning to do what they can about it. All three chairs from the three towns, myself and Chuck Taveri. Chuck. I can't think of his last name. From Salisbury, and the chair from Newbury. The three of us met at one of the district meetings, and we all discussed it, and all three towns are going to put in for an override. And truly, our assessment has been, and in the way it has been for several years in Newbury, and in Rowley, we rarely pass an override. We don't expect an override to pass. We will be looking for an override to cover the amount over the 200,000. So we're looking for at least an override of about $532,000. Newbury will have an override, and Salisbury will have an override. And just to quote again from the paper, it may come down to the fact that Salisbury doesn't even get to choose. Rowley and Newbury could fail the override, and we don't get because Salisbury is the last of the three towns to vote. They vote on May 15th. That their vote on whether to pass it or not to pass the override will not make much of a difference. I would note that the school committee has already set a meeting date for May 16th in order to vote a new budget. They could come back with the same numbers. They could adjust those numbers. And from what I understand, also in the paper, that Superintendent Brian Forget has also made public a Plan B school budget that would see 23 layoffs in the district if an override effort fails. So they've already made plans that just in case. And so we would have 45 days. We'd have to schedule another town meeting on or before June 30th.
What is our plan B? Do we know how much of an impact, 500,000 would be in addition to the 200 that we're going to provide? I mean, is it devastating, or is it? People would need to know that too. I would hope that would come out at some point between now and the vote, that this is what's going to happen.
Well, if the town passes the override,
yeah,
it's going to mean one thing we do want to point out, and that I've been carefully mentioning at the school committee meetings, at the district communication meetings, and at the Board of Selectmen meetings, is that we haven't started to pay for the police and fire buildings. We haven't started to pay the price for the Pine Grove renovation, which starts on Monday, April 16th, Patriots Day. When those hit the taxpayers in the budget increases, that's going to be big enough. Then you're talking about adding in another $500,000 that we would have to pay for this year. And so what would that be? I've heard figures. The guess is somewhere between $200 and $250 per year added to your tax bill. But I would also point out that already in the Triton budget, if we can get past this year, they already have $1 million in wage increases for next year, for fiscal year 20, and they have another $1 million in the budget already agreed to for fiscal year 21. So we're up against it.
Now, when you say the $200 to $250 increase,
I believe that's
average,
for a 400.
is that for the $500,000 extra, or that's not reflecting the police station? And
No,
That's, okay.
no, that's on top of.
Do you know roughly then how much the police station and the renovation of Pine Grove is
I
going
haven't
to
seen any
average?
figures on that.
Now, we're probably talking at least $1,000 increase per household.
That's what I've been kind of figuring
I
myself.
think the issue for the override this year is that if we don't get the override, we are going to go into next year's budget in a real fiscal crisis. Because the last 3 years, we've taken well over $600,000 from free cash to fund the Triton budget. In addition to this, what we mentioned earlier with some of the other town budgets, we have skinnied our town budgets down to nothing in order to pay for that school increase. So, if in fact the overrides don't, if two out of the 3 towns pass the budget, the third town is stuck with it, whether they pass the override or not. If our override doesn't pass and we have to make up the $500,000, we have we'll be probably planning to have a town meeting at the end of June anyway to cover whatever. And we're gonna have to either cut budgets, take money from free cash, take money out of the stabilization fund. But if we don't get the override, God forbid what that's gonna do to our budget next year when we're already looking at $1 million increase. So we've got a real fiscal crisis, and I understand the taxpayers, a lot of us are retirees already. We know what it hits us. A lot of young families with kids that are just making ordinary incomes are gonna have a hard time
But it
with
seemed
tax
kind of,
increase. So but we don't have, unless the state wakes up and starts properly funding the schools. If you look at the figures from Chapter 70 aid, we're getting less now than we got 15 years ago from the state. And I don't know what the exact numbers from the town, but our cherry sheet reimbursements for the town is the same boat. We get less money now than we got 15 years ago from the state. The state has consistently cut back on all these different programs. And who gets stuck with it? We do at the town level. And we're at the point now where, Joe and I went to many school committee meetings. Larry was at every one of them, and Peter was at many of them. We try to impress upon these people, and it's not just Rowley, there's every community around is getting killed by, health insurance, special ed, all these things, and so I can't say hard enough to the taxpayers that without this override, if we don't get the override, yeah, maybe we can cover with cuts and other money that's available, but we have things in town that have to be done too, and it's not just the schools. We have a town to run here. As the fire chief explained, he needs hours. The planning board needs hours. All these departments that and the highway department come in tonight. He needs another man. We've been running on the shoestring here for so long that it's all coming together at once.
but
We need to support the override so that, as
the
much as we hate
days,
to do
the
it.
days of the 2% cost of living increases should not be, I'm not just talking the school and the town. I mean, because I know, I work for the state again, and our increase is like not even a 1%. And, the state revenues are actually coming in, they're not that bad, but, I mean, if we're not getting the funding that we need for the cities and towns, since we're hitting a day of reckoning now, and we approved a new fire station, police station, and, remodeling Pine Grove, it's a lot of things to handle at one time, in the last 2 or 3 years.
All three of these projects are stuff that the police and fire station's been put off 3 times previously. If we built it the first time, it would've been $4 million, we'd almost have it paid off now. The
know.
taxpayers wouldn't give us the money.
Yeah.
Pine Grove should have been done.
Yeah.
They went for that, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, Joe, or 8 years ago, and got turned down again. So, I mean, we've been trying, that the town government's been trying to get these projects. And the only reason why we got them now is because the stations, especially the fire station and the school, are in such poor condition
Right.
that, we had no choice. I mean, it was to the point where the fire engines were getting ready to fall through the floor at the firehouse. And the school was just so outmoded in terms of its facilities that, so I
And it
mean,
was
it's
attractive.
nothing we can do about it, but the only thing we can do is, the school departments and the school committees are putting pressure on the state. And we gotta support that whatever we can, but I mean, it's just,
Well, it was attractive in terms of bonding, the
Well, bonds are
possibly
going-
for
that's
like
the other
that.
thing is
But no,
interest-
that's why we jumped in, and started, taking, these projects when the rates were really low for the,
a lot of these bonding rates are gonna be up by the
Yeah.
time we actually float the final bonds in 2 years, because with the deficit spending that the government is into, the federal government's into, they're already, I looked at my home equity loan, and 3 months ago, it was at 2% on my home equity loan. This month, it's 4%. That's how fast the rates are going up. So, I mean, it's hitting all of us from all sides, but, we need to do these projects, and we're sorry, but this is stuff that's been put off, and not by us, but by the taxpayers. We've been penny wise and pound foolish, and now we're paying the price. So we really need to, and the other thing we've tried to emphasize in the school is the reductions in students and things like that, and the school department gave a very, I don't know what the right word is, a very healthy raises to the teachers, and they all have much better benefits than the town employees have in terms of health care and dental and all the rest of it. And we tried to emphasize to the school department that, knowing we were coming into this budget crunch, they could bargain a little bit tighter, but I mean, it's kind of fallen on deaf ears, so. And I know Joe and myself, and we've been up to those school committee meetings every year for the last 2 or 3 years during budget time. And, they're just not getting the message. They start off with a level services budget, which isn't level funded, it's level service. A level services budget was up $3 million. And a third of that was basically ours at this point. So, we gotta support, we're gonna have to have an override. If we don't, then we'll have to cut other places, but just keep in mind that if we don't get even with the override, I can't guarantee that next year's budget isn't gonna require another one. I mean, if they're coming in with $1 million in raises before anything else starts, special ed costs and health insurance costs, all those, they're gonna be up again $2 or $3 million for next year probably. So there's some hard decisions are gonna have to be made, but.
It's not really level services, because with enrollment going down for the last 3 to 5 years at least, I mean, it's been more like about 15 years, but let's just look at the last 3 to 5 years, the enrollment has gone down. So level service would, in theory, dictate that the cost would go down. But in their new budget, they have put back in universal free kindergarten. They've
Those are programs that parents want, though. I mean, they want those. Those
Well, yeah,
if
I
you're a
mean-
parent and you have to pay. I mean, I know my son. He did
Yeah,
pre-kindergarten
I know
like
that, but that's not
you know.
level service,
Well,
okay?
I know, but those are
You're gonna
services
pay for
that
these things.
people.
They're not free.
They're not free. You paid for.
Yeah.
I was going to say I paid $4,000 still.
We're paying for it. But I mean, it's just
You know.
the idea that, they gotta bite the bullet, and all 3 towns are facing the same issues. I mean, we're all to the point where everything now is, the state mandates, everything comes down on the local taxpayer, and we've run out of room. And,
Right,
like
but
I
just
said,
as
we can
Triton
monkey some things
complains
together to get
about
through,
the state unfunded mandates for them and requiring special ed and stuff like that the state is mandating to Triton, it's the same state that is mandating to Rowley, Salisbury, and Newbury for their governments as far as, clean water, ADA, our nice little, we'd like to use the second floor at the annex, turned into a $1.1 million
Elevator.
Yeah, well,
requirement.
it's a
So
problem all over.
it's the same state, so there are complaints about the state this and the state that. It's preaching to the choir. We have the same problems.
If I could just make one further comment, that Plan B that I mentioned by the Superintendent Brian Forget does make, reduce with chewing, that would see 23 layoffs, that would reduce the assessment to Rowley from 732,000 down to about 425.
Right, but even then,
So that's, even that amount is
the
twice what we offer.
The Triton
Which
School
is our 100% of our.
is equating the budget cuts in terms of staff and teachers as opposed to programs and things like having the students continue to pay for parking rather than free parking, and having a teacher's Senate stipend, whatever that is, that they've put back in, removing that. So they're trying to equate the budget to staff and teachers, which is fine, but if you look at their original estimates of 51 staff, now all of a sudden, to get about the same budget, they're down to 23. Doesn't make sense. But, and what it's going to come down to is, do you want Triton staff, or do you want police? Do you want teachers, or do you want fire? You're not going to have them both.
Yep. Exactly.
And the big issue is, you got 3 towns, 2 out of the 3 towns vote the budget, so we're all, Joe's meeting with the other 2 chairmen and seeing what we can do, but it's up to the taxpayers in each one of those towns, and if 2 out of the 3 towns pass the budget as it is, then the 3rd town, whether it's us, Salisbury or Newbury, is gonna have to come up with that money, either by budget cuts or other pieces of money that are kicking around, so. The issues are out there, we won't know for sure until we get closer where we stand and how we're gonna fund things, and, I think we're talking now probably of scheduling at least planning a second town meeting, and we're hoping to turn down the budget, say no to the budget at the annual town meeting, and appropriate enough money so we can pay the bills for the first few months. And then in June, after we know how all 3 towns, if we need that town meeting, we'll have it already scheduled. If we don't need it, then we can just cancel it. But I mean, we gotta start, we're making plans to, and how we're gonna do it and what we're gonna do at this point, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we don't have to cross that bridge until we come to it. But we gotta be prepared for the game plan, because it's gonna get complicated as we go through this. And the school holds all the cards. If you read the funding formulas for regional schools, they hold all the cards, and if the towns reduce the budget enough, then the state comes in, and you know what they're gonna do, they're not gonna support us, they're gonna support the schools. So one way or the other, we're gonna be paying. So our hope is, and it was good to read, at least if the budget goes down, that the superintendent's looking at least reducing it from 700 to 400,000 for us, but that's a lot better than 700,000, and make it easier to cover if we have to, but because there's no need, they don't have to cut anything. They can have that meeting right after the town meetings and say, no, we're not gonna cut anything, or we're gonna cut $1, or, some nominal figure. And if we don't have a town meeting, then we automatically accept it. When we don't vote, we automatically end up accepting that budget, so we have to have a game plan in place that accounts for us to have meetings, and then another town meeting is more money. It costs us $6,000 or $8,000 to schedule a town meeting, so, everything. As we say, time is money on all these things, so.
So from what I've been listening to last night and now today, are you talking about us putting in the finance committee recommending a lesser amount than the school is asking for.
Yeah, well, we haven't decided, but
Yeah,
the
but
board
that's-
hasn't made, but in my reading, and Joe and I have talked about it somewhat, I'm not saying, talking for him, but, and I've talked to Larry, that what my recommendation would be is we level fund FY '19 at the F18 rate, at the current rate. We add in the $200,000,
Yeah.
so that we appropriate, I don't know what the total figure is, but we appropriate that money. That, if we don't appropriate what Triton's requesting, it's automatically a no vote. But what that does is, it gives us money so we can pay, when we get the first bill in July, we have money to pay that bill. If we don't appropriate any more money by next May or June or April, whenever it is, we'd run out of money. So we need to go back and fund the money if need be. But at least we're solvent, and it gives us time to make a decision either at the second meeting in June, or if we have a fall town meeting, depending, and it really depends, we really don't know, because we don't know what the other two towns are gonna do. We don't know if Triton gets turned down, they may make, if two towns pass it in the first pass, we got this bill, so then.
We go in for the reduced amount that you just suggested,
Right.
and then also put in for the override. And if the override passes, we go back to the town meeting in June and vote the budget that will
Right,
go with
the override authorizes us to
Yeah.
spend it, the town meeting will then have to vote to actually spend it.
Right.
So it's a two-step process, so.
So as far as tonight is concerned, do we have two votes, one vote to vote on the budget as it now stands? And we'll say if we vote no on it, because we want, the second vote would be to put in what we think, or what the finance committee recommends as the school budget, which would be the fiscal 18 level funded plus the 200,000, we'll say.
Is it 200?
Should we wait until after the selectmen have made their decision?
Has the school committee requested to make a
No.
budget presentation? So, yeah, it's up to you, it's up to the town votes on the finance committee recommendation, so that's why I'm asking, from my point, and this isn't the Board of Selectmen, this is just Dave Peterson, that we appropriate level fund plus the 200,000. Now, we don't know the 200,000 is an estimate, I mean, we don't, some of those figures we don't have yet. But I mean, it's a fair estimate based on what we've had. Some years we've been over 200, some years we've been under on the increase in new construction and things like that. So we know what the 2.5 increase is. We don't know exactly what the new growth figure is. But
So Dave, if I understand you correctly, for fiscal year 18, the total was $9,817,000, and they're requesting for fiscal year 19, $10,523,000, which is an increase, wait a minute, let me just finish, which is an increase of $706,000. Are you saying that we would only add $200,000 to the fiscal year 18 amount?
Right.
Of $9,817,000.
Right.
Correct.
Plus 200,000.
200,000.
Correct.
But what that, but
So you're covering the
understand,
capital on
Don't
that too?
include capital.
Yeah,
Don't-
capital's
You don't
in
want
there.
the capital on that, you just want the.
well, I don't know, I don't have.
No,
Not the
that's what I was
capital
gonna-
assessment, just the
The
Triton
capital's
assessment, the
different.
top
Right,
It'd be
line.
9622,
9622.
173. Yeah,
Okay,
that was my.
Right.
okay, I got
So
you.
then it comes to 982,
22. 9,
2873.
yes, 9822873 is what
Yeah.
would be.
Right.
Would be.
Just understand that what that does is it votes no for the Triton budget, but it gives us money to spend when the new year starts, so we don't, otherwise we'll get sued if we don't have any money to
Right.
spend.
So level fund for, plus
And
200,000.
you also need to be prepared, the town moderator has to be prepared, that they may well get a motion from the floor to increase it
Yep.
back to
Yep.
Yep.
the original figure, so that may, that may well happen, I suspect it probably will happen.
Yeah, because
There
you
will be
vote
a- I am
less people
assuming
go to
there
town
will be a
meeting.
fight on town meeting floor regarding the school budget.
If you vote no, though, you're gonna be voting against the override, then we're really gonna get screwed if you know, the other towns vote, then,
Yeah, I mean,
we're
a
gonna
lot
be-
of
I mean,
it's out of our
that's-
hands. That's what I'm saying, 2 out of 3 towns voted.
so,
It may be us at Newbury and Salisbury takes a hit. It may be us and Salisbury and Newbury takes a hit, or maybe those two towns, and we really, this is the complication of a regional budget. It just,
But I think that you have to pretty much, say that you vote in favor, as the finance committee, well, I mean, because they don't, if the override doesn't pass, if we don't, then they're gonna have a mess on our hands, and if the other towns are okay and we don't pass, and then,
yeah, I mean, we're gonna, if we have to pay and we don't pass the override, then we have to come up with either cuts in the budgets that you've been approving, and/or come up with,
But that's only if the other two,
yeah, if the other two out of the three, and we're the only ones that doesn't,
Yeah.
then we're gonna have to either make the, with free cash to stabilization fund, articles that have money left over that we usually use for capital projects. I mean, we'll have to make the money up somehow. So that's why it's important.
We have to wait and figure that out.
Yeah, we have to wait until we see what the, and if the school,
Yeah.
if it goes down altogether and the school comes back with a number that Joe was talking about, well, then that's, now we only have to make up 200,000, but that's certainly better than 500,000, so. But I mean, that's all, right now, it's a jump ball game. That's why I'm saying that what I'm hoping your board will do is level fund plus the 2.5% in new growth increase. And then the Board of Selectmen will be up to them to, schedule another town meeting in June. And then we have to sit back and see what happens. People are gonna be fighting for the override, and hopefully they'll be successful. And I know that's a burden on taxpayers, but at this point, we're paying one way or the other. Pay me now, pay me later. Nothing is going down, so it's sad to say that for the homeowners, it's only gonna get worse, but.
I see a
What choice
lot
do
of
we
for
have?
sale signs going up in these towns. in the
Yeah, but you
coming-
look, it's funny, you look around town, everybody says, oh, I'm selling, and as fast as the houses are going up,
Yeah.
It's selling.
they're selling.
Selling.
There's a glut right now of people looking for houses, there's not enough houses for sale in this whole
It's
North
amazing.
Shore area, because people are looking to move in,
Yeah.
so.
if I could just make, I just thought,
seniors.
again, one more point, that last year, Salisbury came to me, we've been talking for over a year and a half, and they wanted me last year to support defeating the Triton budget. And I said that I could not because of the Pine Grove override. I didn't want to take a chance on losing the Pine Grove override. And that's only why Salisbury was ready to commit then to defeating the Triton budget. I don't want to say I'm optimistic, but my feeling is in dealing with the other boards that everybody's going to have an override, and everybody expects their overrides not to pass.
I don't know if I share that. I mean, I go into the school meetings, and the ones that the most vocal are the parents that, are speaking for the kids, and they're all really, I think those are the type of
But
people
how
that are
many
gonna
parents
show up
really
on the
showed up
town
at that
meeting.
meeting, Peter?
Well,
There weren't that many parents.
they,
But there will be a lot of people there that they just can't, they're not gonna vote more money.
That last meeting,
Well,
Joe, that we were
Not
at,
many parents considering too. when you look
that
at all
last
the
meeting, when there
households.
was a number of people in the audience, most of the people who spoke were staff members
Yeah.
from the school department. I don't know if there was one or two parents that actually spoke. I mean, I'm not saying the parents don't want this, but,
But if-
we're depending on parents to vote for the override, to balance our budget at this point. If they don't, then,
so they voted for the football of the stadium, and they voted for to spend money for the refurbishing the schools. So what makes you think now it comes down to the operating budget, they're not gonna pass that?
well, the last
People-
time,
From,
the
I
last,
had people coming to me and saying that we, at the senior center,
Yeah.
they were willing to support the Pine Grove renovation because they knew that the school needed to be renovated. They knew it was gonna be a big bill, $39 million, but they were very much willing, on the other hand, to say, no, the Triton budget was too high, and they were going to vote against it.
And the last time, a few years back, we had the
Yeah,
last
let's-
override we went for was
let's end the
150,000. and it got
discussion
turned down.
on the what-ifs and things like
Yes.
that. You know, it's going to tell when the person votes.
Yep.
No matter what they say. But at this point,
Level
we either have a motion to accept the budget as it's presented, or have a motion to have the level funding with a $200,000 increase for fiscal year 19. If we don't get a motion for the present school budget as it's presented, then that dies. If we have a motion and is seconded and approved for the level funding with the $200,000 increase and contingent upon the override, then that's what we would recommend at the town meeting.
Yeah, don't put
Yes.
the override contingency in there. That'll be a separate article.
Right.
Right, I mean, it's a separate article, but just as far as we all know which way or what we're talking about.
I will make a motion that we level fund the fiscal year 19 budget.
18.
I'm sorry, level
No,
fund, no, we went
For
the
this-
fiscal
for
year
19.
19.
Level fund
The-
you're
Level fund
funding
to
at the 18
18,
rate,
correct.
not the 19 proposed.
Which was currently $9,622,873, and include the $200,000 in addition to that, for a total of $9,822,873.
What do we do with the capital though? Should we
For the-
adjust that too, or, I mean?
No,
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 So just
that's-
that line,
that's
just
a-
that one line.
that's-
one line.
But the
This would be
total,
just for the Triton assessment line.
but the total bottom line will be,
True, yeah, that's
Different.
true, we'd
Something
have to
different.
add that.
Well, no,
Nine,
don't forget, on the omnibus budget, what it looks like, you're gonna just have that line. You're just only dealing with one line.
what is it, the bottom line, including the capital as well?
No, it's the
No.
capital's in the,
Okay.
that's a line item, so it's not
Okay.
it's not a subtotal. If
Okay.
we're just showing it here so you can analyze it.
So that's independent,
Yeah,
the
that's
capital
right.
assessment line, okay.
So
So
second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it was unanimous.
I guess keep in mind that
He
we
didn't say
already got
anything. That's
an
All right.
estimated assessment from Whittier of an extra, $43,000, Debbie,
how do you want to
based on
present it?
the numbers
Yes,
of students that go in there.
We should
So
have
they're
the
also
balance.
going up.
For the record.
We have little or no control over that.
Thanks.
How does it affect
Okay, let's move on to the other budgets. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Go to the easy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whittier.
I got town moderator.
So how does that affect the override though? If
Nice.
you say that you wanna vote for the
$100.
200,000, that doesn't affect the override right now, right? Because
That'll be the week.
that would be the weekend, so this is just like a patch
Yeah.
thing.
Which is
For now.
nice to know you can afford it.
Yeah, so,
Override doesn't.
yeah, so put me in yes too for that, Larry. Larry?
Larry?
So put me in yes
Oh, he's
too.
not
Not
abstaining
abstain, just put him as a yes,
Go on my office, was it in
Oh.
so it's unanimous.
Teresa.
Was there a hat on the table?
Abstain to yes.
Oh, was there a hat?
Okay, I had a
No, I
question.
didn't see
Thank you,
anything.
Sharon.
Joe?
Did a
Are
fall?
you looking for rats, Joe?
No, my hat.
Hat, it rhymes with rat, but
No, you didn't have it.
I didn't see one at all.
Is it, maybe, did you go in the back room?
Is that your hat right there? Is that?
Yep,
Oh,
there it is.
you go.
Thank you, Peter.
Very good, Peter.
Nice.
Okay, town moderator, budget
Good night.
for $100 level funded.
Make a motion.
Second.
to accept.
Bingo.
Sharon, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Town accountant. She is below budget for all of, in the categories, except for the expenses, which is, you know, the dues and things like that.
And the software license, and
Right.
increased postage just went up.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Accept that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Finance Committee.
Yes, it's right here.
There's two budgets Larry asked me to redo on last night.
Right.
So we're going by version 2, the top
So
one?
we're going the top one, which is increasing the reserve
Yep.
Okay.
by 100,000, by 25,000 to 100,000.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept finance committee budget.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
That
Any
might-
discussion?
Well, that might have to be downgraded again if depending
Well,
upon what
every budget.
happens. But no, but I'm
Yeah.
just picking the ones that have the most, seem like to have the most fat, like this in the fire department and things like that.
It's a very
Well-
small
well,
percentage of the operating
yeah.
budget.
I mean,
If you're
it's,
talking, and
Yeah.
you were in Linfield, okay?
Yeah.
People laugh when it was 50,000. They're like, Debbie, how does your finance committee get away with 50,000 as your, we don't have a city council that meets every week. That's the legislative body, it's town meeting. If you have an emergency or catastrophe,
Oh, yeah.
you need money right away.
That's not even
You have a
enough.
$17 million budget and you only have $75,000? It's
Well, I
a-
know it's,
It's
but
nothing.
And it doesn't, it goes into free cash, like if it's unexpended funds, it doesn't, you know, it will be
Yeah.
used, if you don't use it, the town has that money.
We use it for snow and ice if we have to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
deficit.
On finance thing, I don't know why it hit me today. I haven't seen a payroll for Teresa.
Because Larry was the authorized signatory.
Oh, okay, that's why I just
Right.
wondered if she's getting paid, that's all.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder.
Just wanted to make sure, because I
No,
hadn't
we-
seen it.
We do it for Larry, and
Right.
Okay,
Teresa gets the timesheet in.
okay, that's all I wanted.
Good
We
for
used to all
checking up.
sign it, so I just,
I think it was just easier because it was
Yeah.
holding up the payroll process.
yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure she's being paid, that's
No,
all.
that's good. At the Board of Selectmen, do we have?
I don't think we voted as, I think they just made a motion and seconded. Did we vote as to accept it?
Finance
for the-
committee, I have all.
Okay, then I
I
must have
show
been
it as-
half asleep. I just wanted to be sure.
I've got my cheat sheet here. to
Oh,
write all the
okay,
things
all right.
down.
I seem to have dozed off on that one.
Okay, do we have a Board of Selectmen's
Yep.
budget?
mhm.
I don't. Yep,
Look at mine.
no, that's all right.
So you don't need the collective bargaining reserve for the,
No, because that's.
because
they-
why?
They did the bargaining,
Oh, so that's only because, so now we can leave it at blank, or would it?
right.
So that budget actually dropped almost 8%.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we accept the selectmen's department budget.
Okay, I have a motion,
I'll second it.
a second, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Advisory. $99,
It's level funded.
$82 left.
What is the Personnel Advisory Committee?
Personnel board.
Personnel board?
We-
Okay.
We buy personnel jackets from their posters, label our posters, we post
Okay.
them in our mailroom
It's for the
area.
Personnel Board, yeah, okay.
He's on the board.
Yeah.
Larry.
Buying posters?
I do, we buy label law posters, we buy, you know,
okay.
We work on the, all the personnel
Well, I know what the,
documentation.
yeah, I just didn't
That's-
know what the budget was for, that's all.
No does.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay.
A second.
Any other discussion?
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Agricultural Committee.
That's completely level funded. I make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, Sharon,
I'll second that.
Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Cemetery.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table this, for two reasons. One, it's not signed by anybody, and they don't have any requests under FY19 on Form 3. They haven't filled out, it's not just filled out properly. I don't know if, is the Cemetery Commission voted this at all?
Yeah, we had the same problem last year.
The only
Yeah.
the only responsive commissioner was Kathy, and I don't know what else to do. I don't want to not go into the next fiscal year without something in this budget line. I caught an error and I resent it, and it was the error on the hourly rate of that
Yeah.
shared
Oh, you did?
position, and I sent it back, and I said, are you meeting, is there, they haven't had a meeting in a long time.
They're not doing anything.
So Kathy responded, I presented it to the selectmen, I said, I'm not sure what to do here, but I only have Kathy, and I am concerned because next week we really have to have the budget done. Your meeting next week, the omnibus budget will be complete.
But can we vote for an elected commission
You
budget?
can
I
make
mean,
a
this is like we-
recommendation call, you can make something in the
Oh, like a
recommended
As a
column.
recommendation.
I
Can
mean,
we
perhaps I
recommend-
leave it blank, I'm not sure
Okay,
what
so we
to do.
can make a recommendation, but what you put in the budget is really what the commissioners have to vote on, I would think.
I would, unless the selectmen administratively are gonna put something in there so that the cemetery has money.
Can we recommend then, in the meantime, that
Recommend
we
what they
put
have now.
fiscal year 18 amounts be this appropriated for 19, unless they come back to you?
Well, I don't wanna be in a position, you do have, a
Salary.
union person in that position, and it's entitled to a cost of living, and
Well, they did provide the information on that. What they
Yeah.
didn't
Right.
provide was gasoline and
because I couldn't
supplies.
do that, I did the wage
Right.
piece, so I did the wage piece, because if you don't fund that position, I could be in an issue there, and I also
Yeah.
provided for the seasonal, because we did reach out, we asked, reminded them that we usually look at posting the seasonal positions in April, but I haven't received any response to the emails. And I know that Chairman Joe Perry was gonna try to reach out to their chairman directly to see. I don't know what to
Yeah,
do. That's all I have. I have no response, and I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
we're just making a recommendation. If they want something different, then they're gonna have to fight it on the floor, I would think, right?
Yes.
So how is,
Yeah, and as far as expenses, they have over, $6,080
Yeah.
remaining.
They haven't done a lot of
Yes,
things,
but-
you know,
but-
for
Right, I-
expanding the
Seasonal.
cemetery.
They have to
Right.
get everything ready for Memorial Day. That takes a lot of work.
There's a spike usually as soon as they
Yeah.
submit out there, and
So-
that expense.
Paul, how are these, because you were big on the cemetery thing, how is this compared to how it used to be run before as far as total expenses and everything? Is it right there, or is it different, from,
Yeah, I mean,
what it was
there's small
before.
amounts of money here. I mean, there's no anything exorbitant, and they have a revolving account too that they.
I know,
use.
what's
And there's-
that?
And there's a surplus from last year, and I think there's still a surplus in this year's budget. So they have money to run the cemetery.
So how much is in the revolving account now?
I don't have that handy right here, but I think it was, I want to say 6,000, but I think that's,
They just let the job go.
yeah, pretty much.
But we have to,
But it's running, right?
Yeah.
They're running people and stuff, so I haven't heard any issues with the
Ending
cemetery.
balance was $40,790.
40,000?
That was last fiscal year, the end?
Yes. Well, it was December 2017.
Well, that's a good thing, then I just wanted to see if the money in the revolving account would cover the expenses that they have, and it looks like they do.
Yeah.
Well, they
from a,
use a company now to do the burials, so, and it's, the person goes to the funeral home and pays that company directly.
Yeah, it just comes right out almost a
It
wash, I
doesn't
think,
come
right?
into the town,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
don't come
directly
in town?
through the funeral home to the company that does the
And they're
burial.
doing a very good job.
So I haven't heard anything about that. That's why the revolving fund is not really being used anymore.
So then that $40,000 is.
I don't know, Larry, where you saw that, but I have, this was what you had at your, one of the meetings.
Don't drop it.
Yeah.
So Debbie, based on what you said, then it's costing the people who
Here's what I
who
have, Debbie.
pass away now, they have to pay more out of pocket themselves than.
No, they always did.
No, yeah,
They-
they don't
they-
pay the town, they pay the
They paid
company.
doing it. But before, they used to pay the town, and
But it was pretty cheap though before for.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Here's what I know. This is.
but we used to put half in
June 30th,
to the cemetery
45,000.
revolving fund and half into
Yeah.
the general fund.
So that's how I
That's
say
the
it.
sale of lots and graves account, that was
Yeah.
up to 44 Ian. I see it here, but that's sale of lots and graves, that wasn't a revolving fund?
You know, I've got from July
That's on
to
that.
December.
Well, I'll just say that
It's a different fund,
their ending balance last year, according to Sue Bailey, was 45,227.39. That was the ending balance that they had left over in their account. So,
But
I mean,
that's, she said that's from the sale of lots and
I-
graves.
the
no.
40,000 is
This
from
is
the sale.
wages, stipends, this is their budget.
Oh, that's the budget.
That's the budget from
Budget.
last year, the ending budget, so they had 45 left over. So, I don't know what they have in revolving, but.
But
I mean, I got it here too. Can this be in the town?
Yeah,
It'll be
Peter,
here,
show
right?
that,
So do you want maybe
Debbie.
ask,
Show that
see
to
if they,
Debbie.
you want me to email
Yes.
that?
What you
the,
want?
Cemetery board and ask them to come in next week?
Larry,
Okay, yeah, that's what,
Larry,
mhm.
that's the sale of lots,
This is the warrant.
wasn't the revolving.
it had a
fund.
balance, it shows a balance in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
According to the town meeting warrant from last year, the balance at the end of, well, that was 2/28/17, was 12,962. And they can expend up to 20, so they had 12,000 if they haven't done anything, and I'm assuming they haven't done anything since then, so it's probably still close to that number.
Larry, thank you.
See, I know we're running out of time, but I don't have my sheet here that shows the schedules.
2 more weeks.
So if we ask them to come in, here it is, next week.
Try.
Yeah. Ask them to come in next week, the 27th.
So is that like a joint meeting, or, because that would not need to be.
No, it's just to,
Well, who would I
send
ask?
a representative, the chairman. Is it still Peter?
Yes.
we need page 3 filled out.
We already voted. Did we?
No, we didn't do anything. Okay,
So do you want to table?
No,
Table that.
if he provides that information to Debbie before the next meeting, then could we just vote next week on the budget, or do you still
Yeah.
want him to?
No,
to-
no, they provide the information,
should.
because that's all we're looking for.
Yeah, so he wouldn't have to come here if
Form
he,
3 to fill out those expense categories.
Right.
yes,
If
Maybe-
not, to come in.
that would simplify things.
Yeah, do we need to vote to
I've only
table
got
that?
one person.
I move we postpone cemetery until
Yes,
next week.
until this issue is
Okay.
resolved. I'll second that.
Right, tabling it till next week. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Historic
Okay.
Commission.
Why is there nothing?
I think when she was typing it, she just kind of level funded it.
It says zero.
Yeah, I think she meant to put in the same amount.
It says they requested absolutely nothing.
I gave her the guidelines, I said it's, level funded, but if you want to fill in and request more, you need to put it in the cells and.
And she didn't even request the original.
So can we vote then to level fund it for fiscal year 19, which would be $402? Or
Yeah.
or there's nothing, it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
But this will be corrected on the
Yeah.
outline.
I would wait.
Yeah, I'll put
I
it
would
in the
wait.
request. I think that's what she meant when she was, she's so busy and she teaches in Boston and she's on a train and she's trying to do a lot of this
Crazy.
in between her regular work. So, I don't think that, she wasn't looking for any money, she was just looking to get the same funds that they had before.
Well, why don't we vote
She
for it?
misunderstood you.
uh,
'Cause she was thinking, when you said you don't have to
being
do anything,
level
that's why she
That's
didn't
what
put
I think.
anything.
I'll make a motion that we level fund Historic Commission and District budget at 402.
I'll second that. So the sheet
Other
will be
discussion?
corrected to reflect.
It'll be
that.
in the budget, I'll just have that, both columns will be the same.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Street lighting.
I'm just curious as to why it went up. I heard them say they're using the LED lights and they're costing less.
I heard that statement, but they are going up, and that's what the manager gave me. I don't know if there's more light bulbs out there,
Yeah.
even though they're lower, voltage.
Is that because they're buying the units themselves, though? Or are we talking about the actual electricity cost? Because they may be buying more units to replace,
That-
some
I-
existing, whether the
exactly.
sodium or the vapor, whatever they call them.
Yeah,
I just thought it was,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed an increase in lights though.
I don't know if that's I know that
I haven't.
that's the number is slightly higher. That's
Yeah.
what Dan Folding told me.
Yeah, if they're-
11.48%.
The distribution
If you're buying
costs
the
can
units,
go up.
they're expensive, so maybe
Yeah.
they're
That's what
converting,
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
so it's actually physical,
Yeah.
buying the
Yeah.
The
light
units
fixture itself.
themselves rather than the
Yeah.
electricity.
So they're buying so many a year, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a response. I would use 34,000 for a budget number from Dan Folding. That's what I
Make a motion that we approve the street lights. We need to have them. It was very dark when the power went out.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Harbor Master.
Is this new deputy harbor master?
Yeah,
Yes,
another new position.
Position that was created.
Any backup on it, or? Is that something we can ask them to give us, fill out that form for the?
Yeah, the issues and options, yeah, and part of it was, he only got his budget, I think on Friday, because the personnel board, and Larry can speak to it, has been trying to review his job descriptions, but due to different circumstances, the meeting was cut short, and the personnel took him about 3 months, which they normally don't take. And I couldn't give him a budget package till we got that set. And they just met last week, so you want to fill them in. So I got it out and I said, can you get this back to me right away? Because I'm running out of time.
Right.
They had to assign this a pay grade, and I didn't know what the pay grade was gonna be, so I couldn't give him his budget package for the new position.
Can we table that till we get that form, so that we could at least,
And he met with Larry, so that's why, he came in many months ago and met with the personnel board and explained it. I don't know if Larry wanna fill it in, them in.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the position works in conjunction with the harbor master, but also because the harbor master may not be available all the time, they almost acts as, well, as his fill-in. And has almost the same duties as the harbor master, not as much no responsibility except for the assistant.
How do they get harbor master wage was 0 before, so if they're saying it's a 2.25% increase, that's, how do they get that number?
Well, obviously that doesn't work.
that doesn't.
No,
belong.
that's.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because if you factor that in, it's gonna be percentage-wise larger than that. I mean, where they come up with the $44, that's what they're saying the increase is when it's,
That's
when it
all
was
wrong.
0
Right.
before.
Yeah, so that's all wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
That
that's
doesn't
what
matter.
you can't really do anything with, the
But it should be accurate, that's
$76.
only that's my only comment, that shouldn't, I mean, that
Well, yes, it
should
should be
strike that out,
accurate,
that
but
$44, that, I don't even,
you don't
Now,
really,
actually, if I'm seeing this right, they're taking $2,000 out of the assistant wages and putting that into a new position. Because the assistant's wages went down.
assistant wages,
Unless that's a mistake too.
that might be, if it went down, it should be a credit then, it should show a negative $76
Yeah.
and,
well, it's not
So-
$76.
It's a lot less, a lot more than that.
I know, but I'm just saying if it went down,
Yeah.
that would be a negative number over there, not a positive
The
number.
numbers in the columns just don't match,
No.
and the percentages.
So maybe I'll go back to him, ask him for the issues and options form and the numbers in the column.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Clarify
because-
whether he's looking
Yeah.
for 3 or 4
Yeah,
assistants.
yeah.
On the second page here, for the salary deputy harbor master, I see 1976/2001. Why is that? Why is there two numbers
Because,
there?
if the position's funded, the first 6 months, it's a lower rate. It's
Okay.
after 6 months, so I put that rate in for him to help him do the calculation,
Okay.
because that's why the personnel board was working to set that pay rate.
Make a motion that we table till next week.
Yeah.
I think they just plugged 2.25%.
I'll second that. Yeah, for example,
They
on the
just plugged it,
assistant
they plugged
wages.
it all the way down the board.
Yeah, the assistant wages, if they went from 5307 to 3427, that's roughly a 35 to 40% decrease,
Mhm.
and they've got everything at 2.25% increase.
Yeah, they
so-
just plugged that number.
Just gotta clean it up a little bit.
Right. Any other discussion? I'm going to table this to next
Yeah.
week. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do you want him to come in next week and say no?
Well, if he just fills out the information, that would be.
The right
Corrects
way.
it.
Corrects
Yeah,
it.
because a lot of
Travels a
number of
lot.
And we
errors.
have the form, so
Yeah.
they'll answer it for $2,000.
Good old shellfish commissioners.
That went down.
That went down, yeah. I'll make a motion that we accept that.
Okay, have a motion. Second. Going once, going twice.
A second.
Thank you.
And
Any
that'll be
discussion?
A stipend now, not, that will be similar to the cemetery.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So, other three So it's 500, yeah, okay. Are there three?
There are three.
There are three, I mean. I know there's three positions, but are they filled, is what I'm asking.
Paul Lee's, Ronald Nealon, and Stuart Dalzell
That's a
Jr.
junior, okay. I know at one point there was a problem.
Okay, Shellfish Constable. Level on everything.
I'll make a motion.
Why did it?
Have a motion, do I have
I'll second.
a second? Any discussion?
No, I was just wondering, just throwing it out here for this one, like for these budgets, when they, we see the actual, but we don't know what's gonna be the actual 18, and that's really kind of more important than seeing the actual for, because if we only always compare percentages to what's been appropriated the year before and what we have on the table for the budget for this year, we don't really know if there was surplus money or things from, for example, like even like the fire department, if they gone way, if they increased their F-18 appropriated much more, like say 6%, and they didn't really use 6%, they only used 3%, then they're comparing, the appropriated money for 18 versus 19, and it says, yeah, well, we're within 2.25%. That's not really true if they really didn't spend, the money that they said
Right,
they were
but I
going to
mean, we
spend.
don't know whether.
So that's always been,
It'll depend on the line item, like if it's wages, it could be that there was a vacancy for 3 or 4 months.
we don't know that, but that
Right,
could be the
so-
case,
So you don't necessarily cut the budget back because.
Well, I know, but
there was a
I'm
excess.
just, when we're looking at the budgets, that's what I'm saying, we don't really know, because we're looking at appropriations and not what the actual costs, because we don't really know what the actual costs are gonna be, but, unless we
Well,
just
no,
took
we
the-
don't know what they will be,
Yeah.
but during the year, we look at, each month,
Right,
what they're spending.
well, I know, but, like, this one's easy to look, I'm just kind of curious, there's $1,200 that they appropriated in 18, and 17 it was only 541. It's only a small amount, I'm just picking this one because it's kind of easy to see, so that's like almost, that's increased by 200% from 17, 18, so I'm kind of curious. I know, but I'm kind of curious to see what 18's expenses really are gonna be for this, for the shellfish,
They had a problem that they weren't getting shellfish people working for a while last year.
Okay.
So that would be one of the reasons the money hasn't been spent yet.
For expenses?
Yeah. It's a very important job.
But what kind of expenses, you mean?
Well, they have a
Yes,
boat.
for the boat, they had some motor problems, they had to
Or
use
is
their
it
own
what,
boat.
December one?
They did use their own boat,
December, or is it the
Of
June?
Yeah,
February.
and they have a phone.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because I know, and it's not that much money really, but,
Get down there in that marshland, and you gotta have that phone if
Yeah.
you need it, to call the police for somebody swiping clams and stuff.
no, I know, it just,
We're looking at the shellfish.
I'm just looking at expenses for,
Yeah, they have $1,000 left in it. They had 1,200, and you spent 200, so they have $1,000 left.
it's a lot. But, maybe
You're
it will
not
be
taking the
spent
boats
in.
out this time of year.
Yeah, I know, well, that's
But you've
what,
gotta
but
take-
the fiscal year closes June 30th, so
Right.
we'll see, if
That's the big claiming
if the
time.
$1,000 that they have left over is gonna get spent.
I always laugh at big $1 million budgets, nobody passes about a $500,
Yeah.
and we spend hours on it,
Yeah.
I can go back to Travis Nealon, I'm very grateful, he's the
Yeah,
constable.
he's doing a good job.
It's very hard to find somebody to do this. He just graduated from college and, is working and, this job, the other jobs, and, they find that there are a lot of out-of-town claimers that are on the Raleigh claim flats, and he can't be there all the time. Kind of look at what he's making. So, this budget was set by the prior constable who had, was very active and did a lot, and not that Travis isn't, but I mean, there are a lot of boat repairs, or motor repairs, and, you have to put, get your motor, oil, and I'm not a mechanical, but, whatever you have to do to, keep that boat running and things like that, and repairing things. He also administers the aquaculture program, so there may be some costs in that.
And they're working on the green crab.
Green crabs, he just started, and he's been working with Division of Marine Fisheries on that. We provide some support here in the office. But
A lot of work.
they have a little office set up at the annex, and he meets with the commissioners who serve in advisory capacity. They may be out on the boat too, patrolling and helping him. But I can ask him and let him know, Peter, that you had some questions about what he's spending the money on.
No, well, I was,
I don't mind, I can send him an email. Like what kinds of things.
Yeah, he has a
Cell phone,
telephone,
yeah.
cell phone. That we provide, different things, and it's not a lot of money.
well, I was only using this as an example, not that I was pointing my finger on this one. I'm just using an example of that we don't know a lot of times what is actually being spent and how it plays out at the end of the
But
year.
you do know what is being spent.
Well, we know, but we don't, when we're comparing, we're trying to make the budgets, we're looking at what was appropriated in 18 versus what's appropriated in 19, and not
Well,
that
you
there
have
could
the end of
be,
the year for the previous year, and then you have
But the
up
previous
until
year,
January.
yeah, but the
you have
previous
the-
year, I'm talking about some budgets that I've been reviewing that have almost doubled, gone up by 25% from 17 to 18, and I don't know if that's a good number or not, because we didn't really see how the money is being spent down in 18 yet. We're just looking at
Well, but you
appropriate.
have, because.
We haven't, no, not what I've seen anyway, and
Well,
what I'm
you've got
looking at.
sheets for July through January.
Yeah, and then you have to, and then you know how it plays out. Sometimes it takes the end of the year where then, if
Yeah,
this
but I mean,
is
we can't
much,
do anything
you know.
about that. All I can give you is just,
Right.
what we've had
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
until,
At the end of last
Previous
fiscal year, were we looking at the commissioners or the constable?
Constable.
Constable, he had $621 left over at the end of the year, and he had a budget of $1,563. So we spent $941,
yeah.
and he still had money left over, so.
But you can't,
But what I'm saying is this is only a small department, which, it doesn't really make that much a difference, but if in the larger departments, if that kind of stuff is going on, it can add up to a lot of money, for,
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's why we review the budget during the normal
mhm.
year.
Yeah, we did, we looked at the,
like every month or so, starting in like November or so, or July, August, well, maybe September.
I guess what I'm saying is they're like a look back after when everything's, because no one knows how much we're gonna spend, you won't know until it actually happens, and by then we already have formulated budgets, so there's nothing really can do, but is there like a look back to see what,
I guess I don't
department actually
understand. People
spent?
can't predict when their expenses are
Oh.
gonna be spent.
I know, but I'm saying that as a fail-safe, if there was some type of look back after the fact and just take a look and see.
Yeah, there is. I mean,
We look back.
from,
You had the
End of the
last year's, the end of the last fiscal year, what was left over for,
And if you think that
Yeah.
was too much money left on the table, then you could cut the budget.
right.
I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean,
Right.
you look at that and say, we can make a recommend, just because the department comes in wants X amount of dollars doesn't mean we have to recommend that.
And you're looking
Right.
back, like, last year, the fire
Yeah.
department had deficits for their expenses. They had a lot of repairs to different fire trucks, and they had to come back for more money.
Mhm.
This year, he thinks he's gonna make it okay, but you don't know, like, I know Engine One was away for a week,
Mm.
having its annual maintenance and stuff. You just don't know.
Yeah, well, I know, speaking about the fire department, because that budget went up from what it was before, but if the money is spent and, that's, we want to make sure that the fire department has enough money in their budget, but,
I mean, that's why he's here, asking.
Why?
He can
Yeah.
answer, if you need more, information, you just, you can request it, you know what I'm saying? So, and then you can analyze it and decide whether, we should cut it or not.
Yeah. Let's get off the fire department, back to the shellfish constable. Had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the constable? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Veterans Affairs.
Make a motion that we approve veterans.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Something we have no control over. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I make a motion that we approve unemployment, life and insurance and retirement.
Okay, I have a motion for,
Are those, just a question, those have gone up several line items by 9%. Are those like something that's mandated or?
Yeah,
For
they're all
that.
fixed costs, so.
They're fixed.
It's what we're being told to, the retirement, basic visual retirement, what our assessment's gonna be.
Okay.
So health insurance, blanket insurance, unemployment, we just tend to level fund that.
Okay.
okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Oh, I'll second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Lost the Sweden and Essex Aggies.
Yeah, so, we don't have the Whittier, I had an estimate, and I was thinking I'd get the final this week, so I'll get that budget. That, they're showing an increase, but the good news is that, Essex Technical Agricultural School is,
Does that have a new name now?
yeah, they just had a vote, it was in the Salem News, to put back the word agriculture in it.
Oh,
I guess
good.
they had
Yeah.
taken it out.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the
so
good
this
news?
is the number, this is what they're saying for us at this point. If there's a problem, we'll have to correct it in
So when-
another town meeting.
It's funny, so there's less students and the budget goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it says it's going from 3 to 4 students.
But
We-
we
But yet he
budgeted
has-
for 6 last year.
We had budgeted it for a lot more because that's what, but they say sometimes students will say they're going and they start out and then they transfer. And then they're off the books, or they commit, but then they change their mind at the last minute.
Okay.
They finish up their enrollment in April, so that's way after we need this, so.
Yeah, okay.
Make a motion?
I'll second it.
And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are done for tonight.
So we have cemetery, harbor master, and Whittier.
Yeah.
That's it, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And
And
that's
water.
there.
water tomorrow night,
And water tomorrow night.
if we're not having a blizzard.
Yeah, what
there's no
happens?
Huh?
There's no blizzard.
Have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion. Adjourn the meeting.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.